Welcome back, my dear students. And what we have learned so far is persistent and non-persistent cookies. We learned how to retrieve persistent cookies, how to authorize, how to check, how to destroy, and we completed a complete fully object-oriented based login system which we can implement in JSF, right? And we have completed many different things as well, and those things are like using we can say faces, right, and using many different things, so data table, right, AJX, right, and post, we can say construct, right, how to use post construct annotation and different things. Today we will be learning a very different thing, which is composite control. And what is the composite control? It is actually when you want to reuse something. आप किसी चीज को बार बार use करना चाहते हैं. You want to reuse something, right? And you just want to call it through a tag, right? So we will be using that particular thing today, and it is very useful, right? So composite controls are very useful in JSTL and main Java JSP if you're using JSTL in JSP, and also in JSF. So first things first, what we have to do is go to the resources folder and make any folder where you can keep all your composite controls in. For example, I'll go to resources, but you have to go to resources folder. If it's not there, go and make this resources folder directly in the web page directory, right? So resources folder is very must, right? So we may not be able to do anything without the resources folder. Just like in images we used resources folder, and here also we will be using the resources folder as well, okay? And we'll be using some listeners, and we'll be using some more things. So I will go to resources, and resources is directly in web pages, okay? And we will be making a folder, for example, resources. I'll make a new folder and I'll call this as composite control CC components. So now you can make as many components as you want in CC. In this resources folder, you can make as many components as you want. For example, I want to make, let's say about a feedback form. So I'll go and make a new JSF page, and I call this as feedback. Right, so this is what I call it, feedback, all right? And now we have to design it accordingly, all right? How do you design a feedback form now, right? Because you have to design an interface. Let's get started. I'll quickly call CC, which is the composite control library, and I'll call interface. So I'll say CC interface. Now I'll close the CC interface. Now the moment I say CC interface, the library JSF composite is automatically included, or you can include it manually. CC is just the prefix. If you want prefix to be COMPOSITE composite, so you'll have to change it here as well, right? CC is just the prefix that you will be using to call this JSF composite library. So now the first things first, after making an interface, what do you want? I make two properties. I'll make two attributes. For example, I need an attribute. So what do you want that attribute name to be? So I call this attribute, let's say about, what do you want the text to be? I'll say FEED back TEXT text, right? So it is going to be my, so what is the default? If you don't supply anything, what is the default text to be? So I'll say comment. Right, so you'll understand it completely the moment I conclude this topic, right? And for example, cc-attribute, I'll make another attribute. For example, if I make a button, what do you want button value to be? So what do you want the value to be? So I'll say, okay, if you don't supply, the default button value to be there will be something like submit, or maybe if you're making a login, we'll say login, whatever it is. So I'll call it submit. Button ka value submit, or text is going to be feedback text of maybe a text box that we will be making. So now we have made two attributes, and we'll be making now implementation of CC. So we'll call the tag CC implementation, and we will close this tag CC implementation. So let's make a table, Right, let's call this cell spacing 5 and cell padding 5, and I will be making a table row and a table division. That's it. Right, and I can say h output text. Right, so the first thing is going to be output text. What do you want the output to be? Enter your feedback. Right, so this is going to be the output label or maybe the text that we are going to display in front of the user, right, or in the composite control. So my TD gets closed right here. So I will go ahead with another TD, right, and this TD we will have text. I can go ahead with h dash text.
All right. First, here are some
I will
details about
get to say text. Okay, what happened? H dash input text area. Right, and let's call this as number of columns 55 and number of rows. Right, it's height and the length of this. So I'll say number of rows is 10. Is it required? So I'll just do validation. I'll say yeah, it is required, true. And another validation that I may do here is, what is the message, required message? Please enter the feedback text. So this is going to be my required message. All right, so this thing you have already learned. So my first table row is complete. Right, and now you can clearly see this right here. Right, what is the text that you are expecting? Automatically अगर इसके अंदर कोई text आना चाहिए तो क्या आना चाहिए? Right, तो मैंने ऊपर एक attribute declare किया है. I want the value inside this text area. The value that I want inside this text area is the following, right, which is this feedback text. Default is going to be comment. Default हमेशा comment रहेगा, and we'll open this brace and I will call cc dot attribute. So we already made an attribute right here, and what is the attribute name? Feedback text. Now you can see that you're accessing this right here. I want whatever value is here as of now. The default value is comment. So comment will come here automatically, and you can override it after few times. Oh sorry, after some time when you are implementing it, right? बहुत easy है, बने रहिए end तक, आप समझ जाएंगे, बहुत आसान है ये, ठीक है? Right, and if you want to validate for the length, you can see that you have just validated for required. That means yes, it is required. You can enter something, you can even enter a single word, but it is required. But if you want to validate a length, you can even say, hey, I want to validate my length. So I can say f dot validate length. So you're validating for length. Minimum is 5 and maximum is let's say about 150. So minimum or let's say minimum is going to be 15 and maximum is going to be 150, because someone is trying to submit what? A feedback. So he is supposed to enter genuine feedback. Okay, so we have done validation here. So validation is done. And let us go to another, maybe another TR, right? So we can see what else is there. Okay, we require a button now, so I'll go with another TR. The first TD will remain empty. I don't want anything here. And in the second table division, I want an H, right? I'll say H dash command button, right? And what is the ID? I'll just give it an ID, submit event, right? So whenever you click on submit button, what happens? An event happens that you define, koi bhi event, right? Or you can call a particular event whenever someone tries to click on the submit button. Any particular event that you want would happen. And what is the value of the button? Value is again going to come from the attribute, right? Button value फिलहाल के लिए submit है. You can override it. So I can say the value will be, again I will call hash cc dot attributes dot, now you can say button value, right? Because you just defined button value here. So whenever you call button value, you will have submit. Whenever you call feedback text, you will have this comment. Right, and now we are done with this submit button as well, and we complete the implementation tag. Now this is going to be reused whenever you call CC. Now whenever you call CC feedback, right? So you're going to get this throughout. All right, you're going to get this, right? And let us say the ID submit event. How does this event fire? Right, so I'll just close it down, feedback.html, right, and I'll go ahead and I will make a new web page, JSF page. I'll say CC test. All right, so it is going to be composite control test. So let's run it, CC test .xhtml. So now you can say hello from facelets, right? So you're getting hello from facelet. And now what we have to do, we have to use it or implement it, what we have already made, right? And now how do you do that? All right, I can simply call, I can say with a single click, I can go ahead and say, hey, wait a second, I'll call h-form, all right, and that's it. I will call this CC, which is composite control library, and I just made feed. Okay, let me just import first CC. Now you can say I've imported JSF composite. You can manually do this. So how do you manually do this? So you can copy this, right, and hit enter and go to next line and type CC here, and you can type the library JSF composite, right? But you don't have to type JSF composite only, because there are some more composite controls. Where is your composite control? My composite control is inside the directory CC components. Aapko yaad hai? We just made in the resources, we made a directory known as CC components. Now everything that is in resources is available, and you can clearly see, right? So this is available for you. If I say dash, or if I go JSF and I say, you can clearly see there is composite CC components available. So I'm giving reference to this tag, and now I can clearly see that cc.feedback is available. So the moment I say CC, and now I can see that I'm getting this feedback, right? So this is how you can reuse these components known as composite controls in JSF, right? So now so once you call it, just close it down, and that's it, your job is done. Now you can see, if I refresh this, I call this CC feedback. What is the feedback text? Now you just made two attributes, feedback text, and you have made another button value. Feedback text is going to be something, submit your feedback here, and button value is going to be save or send. All right, so let's go on. Okay, f.validate length is not working fine. There's an error in f-validate length, because what we have done here, we taken this outside, so we'll have to keep it inside the input type text. Okay, ऐसे input type text will be a separate closing tag with everything, whatever you want. Okay, now you can clearly see the moment you call it. For example, if I go to cctest.xhtml, I don't supply any value, I just call CC. I just call this CC feedback, and that's it. Now you can clearly see you're getting enter your feedback, and now you can see validation length is required, that is this, and by default the text is comment. By default the text of the button is submit. Why? Now if I go to my composite control and see what is happening here, you have made two attributes. Feedback text, what is the text of feedback going to be? What is the value of button going to be? By default it is comment. Alright, so we can say enter comment. Now if the moment I refresh it, I get enter comment, right? And by default the value of button is submit. For example, I will keep it save, and the moment I refresh it, I can see that the submit will be converted to save. No, button value, yeah. Yeah, it is save. Maybe I have overridden it. No, I'll go back to CC text, so we're not doing anything right here. Let's override it. Let us override it, and you can see you'll have all the values present. So I'll say send feed back. Now this is the value of the button. Now you can clearly see it's been converted to send feedback. And if I again supply to the attribute feedback text, right, so I'll say write your feedback here, and that's it, because you just made these two properties. Write your feedback here, right? And now can we do more changes? Yes, if you want to do changes here, right, you can easily do those changes, so there's no problem at all. For example, if I make a tr right here and I make another td right here, so we'll say feedback form, all right, and I can keep h3 right here. Let's close the h3 tag. Now we're getting feedback form. And I can go with another td right here, right, and I can say f dash, we have validate, or I will go with h dash message. All right, so I want to display my message here. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so I'll say h dash message for let's give this an id, input type text. Let's give this an id, so I'll say txt feedback, right? So I'll display the message for txt feedback right here, because validation is already done, so I should be able to display it. So f dash validate length is there, it is txt feedback. I should be able to get messages here. I'll say h dash message, and I'm not getting them actually. The moment I get rid of this message, okay, I'm not getting only because of the fact that we will get the message only when we are entering text which is above 15, so I'll keep it 25. Okay, now let us see if I'm not entering anything. All right, so we are getting this validation. You can see this. Okay, we're getting this. Please enter the feedback text. So we're getting the same message. Please enter the feedback text. So I'll say s.message for txt feedback will be displayed upstairs somewhere. All right, so I'll say right validation error. So we're getting this message. Please enter the feedback text. So where are we getting the message here? Just a moment. ID txt feedback. Okay, this is my ID txt feedback, and I will get message for txt feedback. I should be getting it upstairs, so because we've already done it, but maybe there are some differences using composite control, so we will try and get the message at the proper place, because this does not look very nice here. Let me take it to 250 for the sake, just to have the proper messaging. So it's not actually working. You can clearly see minimum and maximum is not working. Right, only required is working. Okay, yeah, that is the problem, that we don't have this working here. Only required is working in our case. So that is the problem that we are facing here, right? And we will see this. How do you overcome this problem? By using pure JSF. We have used that pure JSF. validation or regex or anything. We use many different things, isn't it? Right, so messaging we have used a lot, so we should not be having any problems. Yeah, I don't know why do we get these problems. So let's do this again. Let's see that we display message somewhere else. So we'll say message basically is output text and this is input text area. Right, and a required message, please enter the feedback text. So that's absolutely fine. Validation of the length is happening right here. So we say minimum 250. So if you don't get minimum of 250, we should be able to get an error, and that message has to be displayed here because this message is for txt feedback, right? Because this is for txt feedback. So I don't find any problem right here. And the only matter of the fact is that we're not getting any message. Length is less than allowable minimum of 15. We're still having 15, right? Oh, that is the problem here. That means it's not being refreshed. So let me restart this so that we may get to have something great here. Alright, so it's being restarted. So I will have to reopen the close tab and go to JSF faces. And it is going to be CC test. So now let's see. Okay, still getting 15. Where are we getting this 15 from? Please enter the feedback. Okay, that's fine. Okay, validation length is less than allowable of minimum 15. Feedback.html. Which feedback.html am I using here? Let me close. Go back to composite controls. Reopen feedback. And minimum is not 15, so minimum I'll keep as 10, maximum I'll keep as 150. So let's see, what are we getting? We're still getting 15. Validation length is less than allowable minimum 15, so let me keep it. Okay, please write your feedback here. So what if it's more than 250? We still get, yes, it's maximum 150, it's more than 150. Now we are getting this error, but we should be getting this error here, right? Because we're displaying message for, right? And that is the problem. Message for pass txt feedback. So I'll say txtfb. Alright, that is feedback. So txtfb message, please display them here, and I can go with, say, style color red. It should be, yeah, we're now getting an error, not able to restore, and there is no error at all. So now let's see. Yes, now we're getting the message here. I don't know earlier kya problem thi, why weren't we getting the message here? So please enter your feedback text. We are getting it here. And we can say validation. So minimum and maximum is already here. What is the minimum value and what is the, and you can use regular expression that we have already taught you. And maybe it takes a lot. Maybe caching is the issue. Right now we're getting the message at the proper place. Alright, please enter the feedback text. So now in that case, if I want to use a login form, if I want to design a login form just like this, alright, so we will have button value maybe, alright, and default message, right, or anything like that, so you can use it. Now for example, if I go and make another new JSF page and I require this composite control to be available there as well, so I'll say test cc2. So I'll just make a CSF, so I'll say test cc2.xhtml. so we're getting hello from facets. I'll open h-form, which is the JSF HTML library reference h, and I can say cc dash, right, and I'll have to first make an reference to the composite control library. So I'll just go ahead and say cc, and I will make I'll make a reference to composite cc components. It's right here. Right now you can find cc feedback, and that's it. just call CC feedback and you'll be getting the same thing right here. You can clearly see that you'll be getting the same thing right here, right? And the same validation will happen wherever you have kept that validation to be. Right. So now can we make a login form? Yes, you can make a login form. For example, I go to this feedback and I'll say this is now a login form. Okay. Or I can basically make another class. I'll first show you how to make a class to refer the action to. All right. What do you want to do after the feedback is submitted? Right. So that is, we have already seen, right, these things, right, and confirmation message. If you want to get any confirmation message after the feedback has been submitted, and how do you make that confirmation message, right? And what is the listener? How do you make action listeners, right? So for that, I'll show you how do you make that. For example, we have source package here, right, and I can make another Java package right here. So I'll name it the same feedback. So I'll name the same feedback and I'll make a new Java class right here, and I will call this class as feedback listener. So this is going to be my event listener. Now what do you want? You want to track the event here. Whenever I click on save button, an event should happen. Right, and it's an event. And are you having that event handler? No, as of now I don't have that event handler, right? So that event handler is actually going to be an action listener. You have learned action listeners in core Java, so I'll use the same. I'll say it actually implements core Java. आपको पता ही है, it implements action listener, right? And it is going to be this javax faces.events.action listener. The moment you implement an interface, you know you have to implement all the abstract methods. So I'll implement all the abstract methods. There's only one, which is process action event. Right? Now what do you want? I will say, hey, I want faces context because you have to call faces context. Alright, so I'll say faces context, or I can say faces context FC is equivalent to faces जैसे हम करते आए dot get current instance. You're getting the current instance, right? And I'll again use FC dot get external context dot, and this time I'll get the request map dot get request. You are getting the request as a map here. Whatever request object has, it is being converted to a map, right? Because it's a request has a map, right? I mean to say, whenever you submit request, a request has the request line, the IP address, कहाँ से request आ रही है, किस machine से आ रही है, the architecture of the machine, right? Now, if you want to add anything else to the request map, I want to add something else here. I already have IP address of the machine who has requested and different things. So if you want to add anything, so because the request is a map here, I will say map. You know that we do put to the map, and it's basically a key and a value pair, right? So for example, I want to name it, key is going to be CONFIRM, confirmation, right? And the value is going to be, let's say, your feedback was successfully. So this is what my action is going to be now. Now, how do you call this action? I'll go back to my feedback, right? And I will carry on with the following things. Right, and now I need to call this action no, right, because I have made this action. Now I need to call this action, right? Okay, and now let's go ahead and make a composite control. This is my test CC, so this is where I'm calling this composite control, and I'll make it a separate closing tag, right? So let's have it a separate closing tag, and now I will call the same action listener that I have made. So I'll say f dash action listener for which button? The button already has an ID, right? If I tell you what was the ID of the button, you can see submit. Go back to feedback. What is the ID of the button? Right here, submit event. So I will make an action listener for the same button, which is submit event, a different action listener, right? And I will say what is the type, and type is the reference. So it is going to be feedback, the source name. Where is that? Feedback is the directory name, and feedback listener is the file name. So I'll be calling the same action listener dot feedback listener, right? And this is my feedback listener, absolutely ready. And now what do you want? The key and the value pair. Whenever you call this action listener, right, request line पे कुछ add हो रहा है, you call this feedback action listener, it's being called, automatically process action function is called, right? And it is setting something to the request map, which is the confirmation. So I can call the same request line. From the request line, I can call the same from the derived thing. So I'll just go ahead. I'll go outside the form maybe, right? And I make a paragraph, and I say h dash output text, and I'll say value, and I will say value is equivalent to confirmation, right? So the value is going to be confirmation. What is this confirmation actually? This confirmation is what you have set to the request. अब देखो आप क्या कर रहे हैं? Get the external context, get request map, and put. You are adding one more thing to the request map, which is confirmation, and the same has been retrieved here, right? Output text में confirmation. You are retrieving it. So let's see how it goes. And I have to go to cctest.xhtml. Say hello, nice to learn JSF and faces. So I'll say send feedback. Okay, which we're not getting it actually. We're not getting the message. Okay, so I'll just, it's basically you have to maybe rebuild and restart. So I will restart it. All right, once again we are successful in doing that. Can you mind if I keep it here? All right, so let's see. So I'll say faces slash cctest.xhtml, submit the feedback, and let's see the value of the button first, right? So alright, everything else is fine. Just this confirmation is not happening. So it is feedback, FEED, feed, and directory is back, and I suppose the file is also the same. It is going to be feedback.feedback listener. Let's submit it. I don't know. Which file are we editing here? We are editing CC test. What time is it? We have some time left. We still have some time left, okay? So now, because we have this caching problem that happens every now and again, but this is the process we do. You do this in case if you're having any error, let me know, right? And you can create composite control actually of anything, right? You can create header and footer section and keep it in the composite control. Tomorrow I'll show you how to use the master page technology in JSF. That how do you define a separate header, how do you define a separate footer, Right, and we can see that if I go to my feedback, we have created interfaces. You can create the same interface, right? So there's no problem at all. You can have HTML being implemented in the same page. That is also done. You can have the same header and the same footer, only the body section can change, right? So आज आप इतना करें या आप what you can do again is create the same login that we have created. We already created the login page, because login is something that is required everywhere. You know, if I go to welcome, and yeah, it is required everywhere. Maybe you are going to integrate it with the anonymous access module, right? बहुत सारे पेज आपके होंगे जिसमें आप डायरेक्ट एक्सेस देना चाहते हैं वेबसाइट के, बहुत सारे होंगे जिनमें आप रिस्ट्रिक्टेड एक्सेस, यानी कि इट शुड बी गेटेड कंटेंट. गेटेड कंटेंट मींस you should first sign up and then sign in, right? And there you cannot redevelop this again and again and again. So what you can do, make it a composite control and use it anywhere you want to use it within the web page, 10 times, 20 times in the entire website, absolutely no problem at all. So you can use it as it is with will. Right, what you got to do now, I'll just hint it. What are you going to get? You don't have to make too many properties. What is the label name? Right, so the attribute number one, like we have made attribute here, is feedback text. So we can say txt, or we can say user name text, or you can say user name label text, password label text, right? So you can use something like that, and you can create a third attribute which is going to be login button value, right? Default is login. Default here is enter your password, and default here is enter your username, right? And now what you have to do, in the same table, go ahead with the username, txt username, txt password, and also remember me. Third is going to be remember me, and also the button, and use this composite control with a single tag, just like we used it here, cc feedback, and that's done, right? You're done. Wherever you call now this cc feedback component tag, so it's going to automatically integrate. It doesn't matter wherever it is designed. For example, if I create a div, right, and say style, and I'll say float towards right, it does not matter at all. You can keep it inside this div, and it's automatically going to float towards the RHS. I can clearly see which file is this. It is test cc2, so I'll just log into test cc2.xhtml, and now you can clearly see, right, this can flow towards right. So let me first give it a background color which is red, just to check the alignment. Yeah, you can clearly see, right, and let me give it a width of 100%, right? And now we have another div right here. I'll take this div here, right, and I will say style float right, so I'll not keep float right here, and I'll say width 50%, right? And now you can clearly see this will automatically flow towards the right hand side. Wherever you want to keep it, you want to float it, you want to take it out, you want to keep it in the main div, right? You can take it out and keep it in the main div. So it is going to follow wherever you go. That doesn't mean you cannot style it. You can even style it beforehand. For example, I want to style it beforehand. I don't have anything right here. You can even style your composite controls beforehand. You directly go to the composite control file. Alright, for example, if the table wants to have a border, you can say table border 1, and this is automatically applied to the full composite control. I can clearly see what happened. Okay, TD is deleted. Okay, sorry. Fine then, we will run it again, no problem. Okay, what happened? Something is done. Something wrong has happened. I hit something that I should not. Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's carry on. Alright, so now if you want to have this border, alright, so I can say border 1, and you want to have border BG color. So you can have anything you want, so that's not a problem. I can see you're getting a border here. If you want to have BG color, you can style it and yet use it anywhere. Now practice this composite control. Inshallah, I'll show you how to design a master page tomorrow with the help of composite control. Tomorrow's class will be equally more important like today's class, but it's going to be a bit lengthy. Alright, so I'm not giving you too much to practice on, just a single composite control. The same as I've shown you. Practice it till tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow, and you'll find things pretty easy if you practice this today. And tomorrow's class will eventually be very easy, right? I wish you all the best. See you tomorrow. Bye bye. Take care.